Hey everyone, and a truly warm welcome back to the channel. Before we dive deep into this incredible mystery, I want to take a quick moment to say hello and genuinely hope you're feeling healthy, happy, and ready for a fascinating journey today. Sending positive vibes your way, take care of yourselves. Imagine this, an entire island paradise, bursting with vibrant life, stunning palaces painted with dolphins and dancing ladies, ruled by a powerful king. Ships laden with treasures sail across the sparkling sea, connecting a brilliant civilization to the world. Life seems good, prosperous, almost magical. And then, silence. Within what feels like the blink of an eye in history, this magnificent culture vanishes. Not with a slow whimper, but seemingly swept away, leaving behind only ruins and whispers. What happened to the Minoans? That's the colossal, spine-tingling mystery we're unraveling today. Get ready, because the truth is wilder and more complex than any Hollywood disaster movie. Let's set the stage properly. We're talking about the island of Crete, right there in the heart of the Mediterranean Sea, a place of sunshine, fertile land, and surrounded by that gorgeous blue water. This is where the Minoan civilization thrived, starting way back, around 3000 BC or even earlier. Think ancient Egypt was old. The Minoans were building their incredible society while the Great Pyramids were still new. They weren't like the warlike civilizations we often picture from ancient times. Their art shows graceful people, athletic games like bull leaping, yes, literally jumping over charging bulls, beautiful nature scenes, and goddesses worshipped prominently. They built these astonishing multi-story palaces, the most famous being Knossos, not as fortresses, but as grand administrative and religious centers, with sophisticated plumbing, light wells, and storerooms packed with goods. These weren't just big houses, they were the beating hearts of a complex, organized society. They became masters of the sea. Their ships, sleek and sturdy, sailed far and wide, trading their beautiful pottery, exquisite jewelry, and precious olive oil and wine for metals like copper and tin, ivory, and other luxuries. Crete became a crucial hub, a wealthy middleman connecting Egypt, the Near East, mainland Greece, which was still developing, and islands all around. Life, based on the evidence we have from their vibrant frescoes and artifacts, seemed pretty darn good for many. They developed writing systems, first picture symbols, hieroglyphics, then a flowing script we call Linear A, which we still can't fully read. This points to bureaucracy, record-keeping, a sophisticated level of organization. But then, around 1700 BC, something big happened. A massive disaster struck Crete. Archaeologists find layers of destruction at the major palaces, Knossos, Phaistos, Malea, Zakros, walls collapsed, buildings burned. What caused it? For a long time, the prime suspect was a truly catastrophic earthquake. Crete sits on a very active fault line, so a massive quake shaking the island to its core was a strong possibility. Imagine the ground violently rolling, those magnificent multi-story palaces crumbling like sandcastles, fires breaking out everywhere. It must have been terrifying. The Minoans, being resilient, didn't just disappear then. They picked up the pieces. They rebuilt their palaces, often even grander than before. This period, the Neopalatial period, is considered their peak, their golden age. Art, trade, influence, it all seemed to be going stronger than ever. Then, around 1600 to 1500 BC, the exact date is hotly debated by scholars, an event happened that shook the entire Mediterranean world, an event so colossal it echoes through myth and science even today. Roughly 110 kilometers north of Crete, on the island we now call Santorini, then known as Thera, a volcanic mountain exploded. We're not talking a little burp of ash. This was one of the largest volcanic eruptions in recorded human history. Think Mount St. Helens times 100, or more. The scale is almost unimaginable. The eruption blasted cubic kilometers of rock and ash into the sky. The center of the island collapsed into the sea, creating the stunning caldera we see today. Now, picture the impact on Crete. First, the earthquakes. A blast that big would have triggered massive, violent tremors felt intensely on Crete, easily 100+ miles away. Palaces and towns weakened by previous quakes would have suffered serious damage again. Then, the sky would have gone dark. Not just cloudy, but pitch black, as a colossal plume of volcanic ash blotted out the sun. This ash cloud, carried by the wind, rained down on eastern Crete especially. Imagine inches, maybe even feet, of choking gray powder covering everything: fields, towns, harbors. It smothered crops. It poisoned grazing land. It clogged waterways. Breathing would have been difficult. Livestock would have died. This wasn't a one-day event. The ash fall could have lasted for days or weeks, plunging the island into a terrifying, sunless winter. But the horror wasn't over. Volcanic eruptions like Thera often trigger tsunamis. And this one generated truly monstrous waves. Imagine walls of water, tens of meters high, roaring across the sea. Within 30 minutes to an hour, these tsunamis would have slammed into the exposed northern, eastern, and southern coasts of Crete. Coastal settlements, vital ports like Amnisos near Knossos, the palace at Zakros right on the eastern shore, they would have been utterly obliterated. Ships in harbors would have been smashed to splinters. The wave energy surging inland would have swept away buildings, people, animals, and deposited layers of sea sand and debris deep into the landscape. The destruction along the coastline would have been absolute, wiping out the Minoans' critical connection to the sea and their trade networks in an instant. This combination, devastating earthquakes, suffocating ashfall crippling agriculture for years, and apocalyptic tsunamis annihilating the coastal infrastructure, delivered a knockout punch to Minoan society. The palaces, symbols of their power and organization, were either destroyed beyond immediate repair or severely damaged. Knossos, being slightly more inland, might have survived the tsunamis better than Zakros, but it still suffered. The intricate system that kept Minoan civilization running, the administration, the trade routes bringing in essential goods, the agricultural surplus that supported the population and the elite, completely collapsed. Famine likely followed the destruction of crops and the crippling of farmland by ash. Disease could easily have spread in the chaotic aftermath. The population would have plummeted. The Minoans' confidence in their world, their gods, and their leaders would have been shattered. How could you trust the earth beneath your feet or the sea that brought you wealth after such unimaginable horror? In the immediate chaos after the eruption, survival became the only priority. Rebuilding palaces was impossible. The central authority likely dissolved. People fled inland or perhaps even off the island entirely. Communities fragmented. The grand Minoan way of life, centered on those magnificent palaces and their cultural practices, effectively ended. The sophisticated art, the intricate rituals, the use of linear A for administration, it all faded away. The Minoans didn't literally vanish overnight, people certainly survived. But their civilization, their unique culture and power structure, was broken. Enter a new player, the Mycenaeans. While the Minoans were flourishing on Crete, over on the mainland of Greece, another culture was rising, the Mycenaeans. They were different. More warlike, organized and fortified citadels like Mycenaean Tyrans, ruled by warrior kings. They admired Minoan culture, you can see it in their early art and goods, but they were also competitors. As the Minoans reeled from the Thera disaster, the Mycenaeans saw an opportunity. Archaeological evidence shows Mycenaean presence increasing on Crete in the following decades and centuries. By around 1450 BC, there's a dramatic shift. The ruins of Knossos show signs of being rebuilt, but in a different style. Mycenaean pottery styles become dominant. Crucially, the administrative writing changes, Linear A disappears, replaced by Linear B. And Linear B tablets, found at Knossos and mainland sites, are written in an early form of Greek, the language of the Mycenaeans. This strongly suggests that Mycenaeans from mainland Greece took control of Knossos, the last major Minoan center. They moved into the palace, ran the administration using their own language and script, and essentially became the new rulers. So, was it invasion? Conquest? Or did the weakened Minoans, struggling after the disaster, invite Mycenaean help that then turned into a takeover? It's hard to say definitively. There's little evidence of massive warfare or destruction at Knossos around 1450 BC, suggesting it might have been more of a political or economic takeover rather than a violent sack. But the result was clear, Minoan Crete was now under Mycenaean Greek control. The unique Minoan culture was submerged. Over the next 100 years or so, even this Mycenaean-controlled Knossos eventually declined and was destroyed, possibly by internal conflict or further natural disasters, around 1375 BC. The story of the Minoans' end isn't simple. It wasn't one single villain. Think of it like a tragic play with multiple acts. The earthquakes were a recurring threat, weakening their structures and confidence. The colossal eruption of Thera was the catastrophic climax, a natural disaster of staggering proportions delivering a combination punch of earthquake, volcanic winter, and tsunamis that shattered their world. This disaster fatally weakened their society, destroying their infrastructure, crippling their economy, and devastating their population. Into this power vacuum stepped the opportunistic Mycenaeans, who took control, absorbed what was left, and ultimately replaced the Minoan culture with their own. Climate change might have also played a subtle background role, perhaps stressing resources before the big blow. So, the Minoans didn't just pack up and leave. Their brilliant civilization was likely brought down by a devastating convergence of natural disasters, primarily the Thera eruption and its horrific consequences, which created the perfect conditions for a takeover by their powerful neighbors from the Greek mainland. It's a story that reminds us how fragile even the greatest civilizations can be in the face of nature's immense power and the shifting tides of human ambition. Their legacy, though, lives on in the stunning ruins of Knossos, the beautiful art in museums, and the echoes of their myths, perhaps even the legend of Atlantis, inspired by the catastrophic loss of Thera. The mystery endures, whispering to us from beneath the ash and the sea. Thanks for diving deep into history with me today.